to the grandchildren who would surely follow. But neither of her sons had ever shown much interest in fairy tales, and they rarely sat still long enough for her to get out more than the obligatory "once upon a time." They'd squirreled out of her lap whenever she'd tried to corral them, preferring toy airplanes to books, and later, girls to just about anything else. Both boys, now grown men of 43 and 40, was it really possible? Had married women they'd met while away at college, Berkeley for Todd, Stanford for Ben, and moved to the opposite side of the country. Neither marriage had lasted more than a couple of years, and both men had married again, Ben several times, the latest to a pole dancer from Russia. The various marriages had produced 5 children, 3 boys and 2 girls, Mason, Peyton, Carter, Willow, and Saffron. Where did they get these names? All of whom were now young adults, and none of whom had any connection to their paternal grandparents back east. Ellen couldn't remember the last time she'd spent significant time with any of them. For years, she'd sent money at Christmas and at birthdays. Sometimes she received a thank-you note. More often than not, she didn't. She'd complained to her sons, but they claimed to be powerless. Ex-wives, Ben had said with a shrug, as if this explained everything. Ellen had recently tried communicating with her grandchildren via email, but her brief inquiries into their health and well-being had gone unacknowledged. She doubted that any of them would bother showing up for the 50th anniversary party she and Stuart were planning for the fall. Whatever happened to happily ever after, she wondered now. Ellen heard Stuart grunt and his knees crack as he bent down to arrange the logs in the old stone fireplace. She studied his weathered but still handsome face, his soft brown eyes narrowed in concentration, his wide brow furrowed as his fingers, their knuckles swollen with arthritis, struggled to light a long match. Despite the years, the man was still a sight for sore eyes. Even after all this time, he still made her heart flutter. Amazing, Ellen thought, wondering at her good fortune, and feeling guilty she hadn't been able to pass that same luck on to her sons. Except that marriage was as much about hard work as it was about luck, she understood. And it hadn't all been wine and roses, peaches and cream. There had been days, sometimes even weeks at a stretch, when the thought of Stuart disappearing under the wheels of a bus had been more than casually appealing. There had been times when she'd considered leaving him. Once, when she'd actually had her hand on the telephone, the phone directory on the kitchen counter open to the listing of prominent New York divorce attorneys. But then she'd remembered a piece of advice her own mother had given her about when times got tough to remember the reasons she'd married Stuart in the first place. And she'd thought of his sweet smile and his sly sense of humor, and the way his gold-flecked brown eyes lit up whenever she walked into the room. Soon she was recalling various random acts of kindness, thoughtful gestures, and the gentle way he always touched her, how she loved his keen mind and his open heart. And soon, the yellow pages would be back in the drawer, and she'd be cooking him his favorite dinner of macaroni and cheese, which was something else she loved about him, that he was so easy to please. It didn't hurt that their sex life had always been active and fulfilling. Even now, at their advanced age, they still made love often and enthusiastically. While the acrobatics of their youth may have disappeared, their ability to please one another had not. "You know what the most common form of sex is among senior citizens?" Stuart had once asked, looking up from the morning paper he was reading. "Oral sex," he'd continued with a wink. "Are you saying they just talk about it?" Ellen had quickly countered. How they'd laughed. She laughed again now.